When do you think it's okay to not identify yourself as a journalist?
Well, I think there's two cases. Actually, there's the trivial case when you call up and ask, is so and so in? You don't necessarily have to. Every time you pick up the phone, when a secretary answers, identify yourself as a journalist. It's cumbersome and sometimes inconvenient. I don't have a problem with sort of the trivial transactional, where you're not trying to mislead someone about your identity. You're just acting as a member of the general public, not identifying. In general, however, I think it is important in almost all circumstances to anyone who you're going to be interviewing or talking to or treating as a source to identify yourself as a journalist promptly and forthrightly. I think the only exceptions come when there is a compelling interest and no other way to get the information. I also think it makes a difference in those cases whether you are omitting your identity as a journalist versus falsely identifying yourself. So, for example, in a lot of cases, television reporters particularly will do undercover investigations where they go someplace, they're in a public area as a member of the public, and they don't identify themselves as journalists in order to see what's going on. And I think that's qualitatively different than misleading people about who you are. Applying for a job at a grocery store to get hidden camera footage of the grocery store is different than wearing a camera when you walk into the grocery store and seeing what the general public can see. So there was one example where Dateline NBC did a project on the repackaging of expired meat in grocery stores. And they went in and, as members of the public, and marked packages of meat secretly and recorded themselves doing it, and then were able to go back and see if that meat was being resold later under a newer label, because they would mark the back of the packages. And there was no other way to get that story, and they didn't explicitly mislead anyone. They simply went to a public place and did not identify themselves as journalists. There was another similar project that was done by another news outlet where someone who worked